Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me as always. I'm very excited to have this wonderful guest with me today, Dr. Kevin Preston. Uh, he, he, this is going to be an amazing episode. I just know it because we are combining this amazing intellect with heart and passion and purpose. And so we're going to go through all of that. But first, I want to give you some understandings of who this person is. And Dr. Kevin Preston is a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine, a herbalist, as well as an acupuncturist. And we all know that I'm a huge fan of acupuncture. He is the creator and host of the New Human Events with the desire to ignite the powerful flame that lies within each of us by reminding our hearts to be open and fully alive while allowing ourselves to be witnessed by the supportive community around us, healing, rising, thriving, and becoming new humans together. So, with that, welcome to the show, Kevin. So nice to have you.
Really lovely to be here. Thank you for the invitation, and yeah, excited to have a conversation with you and with everybody.
Yeah. And I'm really excited about this because we're going to talk about this more in a little bit, but you're hosting an amazing event in October. And this is a 3-day event in the Okanagan, in BC's beautiful Okanagan. And it's about exploring the space between science and spirit, individual advancements, and the collective responsibility in balancing the heart and the head. I can't wait to talk about this. But before we talk about what you're creating here with amazing guest speakers, and I mean, Avalon Spirit's going to be a part of it too as a sponsor, so we're excited. But what I want to know and what I want to share with people is how did you get to that point of creating something? And so that's what I really want to unpack today is your story and your why and what led you to traditional Chinese medicine and all of that. So if we could start at the very beginning, we
Yeah.
start at the very beginning and then we'll work towards that. Um, let's just hear a little bit about you. Like where was that ignition into a path of consciousness for you? Was it a moment? Was it a experience? I'd love to know.
Yeah, I think that it's all the stacking of moments, over time and the little choice points that maybe we don't think are that big, but maybe turn out to be bigger later on. Even a 1 degree shift or a 2 degree shift, then suddenly there's a new door, a new window that opens. And so, as I tune into your question, I remember spending a lot of time in the forest as a kid. And I grew up as a farm kid in central Alberta, farming community. And so I was outside a lot and I loved being outside and really feel very blessed. I got to grow up that way. We had a creek through our property. We had 160 acres and my parents still live there. And my grandparents lived
Mm,
right down the road and they farmed that territory. They farmed that region as, livelihood. And so I got to grow up with big gardens and potatoes and carrots and peas and all those beautiful things and I remember being in the dirt a lot and building things in the forest and just kind of being in that imaginative creative phase. I loved using my hands. I loved creating any number of things and that would be an ongoing process. And so as I kind of tune into that time and all the way to present, I realized that spending a lot of time in nature and actually quite a bit of alone time as well, it was connecting and informing these layers in my system that I still have today. And in Chinese medicine, they view the body as a garden. And so I feel like without knowing it, I was being set up to be able to go into this field of holistic health and connecting deeply with the body and the cells and really exploring our own inner nature by spending so much time in nature and fishing at the river and I hunted as well. But what I realized about hunting was I actually only ever shot one deer and I was bow hunting and yeah, actually even prior to bow hunting, yeah, I think I was 14 when I got my first deer with my dad on our home property. And, of course, we ate it and it fed our family. And later on, I got into bow hunting, but I discovered I actually didn't want to hunt that much. I just really enjoyed being in the forest by myself. And I had the most incredible experiences of coming into stillness where I'd find a stump or a log in the forest, and or I'd lean up against a tree, and I would fall into these, states of sitting there for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, just being so quiet and so still. And what I saw was the forest would just come alive. After 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, all manner of creatures would start really moving around the forest because I got quiet. And I know that taught me something of, well, having the discipline of just sitting there, but I love just watching. And I
Mhm.
would see like deer just, walk so close to me. And my heart would be beating, and they'd be maybe 10 feet away without knowing I was there, but they could sense me, and they had confusion, but I was so still. I was really good at being still and just waiting, and they would move on by, and birds and other creatures and porcupines, and it was fantastic. And I really have so much reverence and appreciation for having that time, because I know it did something for me in my body of awakening some of these things that, later on are, really handy as a Chinese medicine doc and holding retreats and stuff. It's like, how do we sit with stillness? And
Mhm.
that's still an ongoing contemplation. And so, I played all sports, I played hockey, and that was also the start of an initiated path, I think, through a lot of injuries.
Okay.
And whether it was stitches or knee surgeries, and, overcoming and being perseverance on, missing whole seasons and going back through rehabbing my body, and then getting repairs and doing that again and again. And so I actually blew my right knee out 5 times.
Oh, oh, 5 times?
Yeah, I'm kind of a slow learner, and maybe
I
a bit
hear you.
stubborn.
I'm
And,
similar.
it was one of those things of, I can pontificate on why that was, and it was certainly part of the journey, but I was 15 the first time it happened. And then again, it was like every year or two from like 15 to 20 years old, again and again. And then I would be in these spaces of being in medical clinics, interfacing with doctors, therapists of all kinds, sports physicians. And I thought, well, if my hockey direction doesn't work out, this medicine stuff is pretty cool. I had some great practitioners and great doctors, and some of them that were really passionate. I felt that passion kind of awaken in me. And then eventually I ended up having acupuncture after surgery, another injury, another surgery, and it worked really, really well. And I was sort of awestruck seeing the results really rapidly, really quickly, and that activated something in me for sure. My curiosity was, how did that work? Like, what happened there? They stuck a bunch of needles in my knee, and now it feels way better, and the swelling's down, and I can walk better, and that's totally bizarre. I had no reference point for that growing up. I didn't have any sort of connection to alternative medicine. My mom was a nurse actually in Western medicine, and aside from my connections with nature and everything else, that was really foreign. And it opened something in me, and curiosity got the better of me. And I started reading about Chinese medicine and reading about Chinese medicine philosophy. And that also connected deeply. I remember some of the words I would be reading on pages that would talk about getting to the root source of illness and getting to the why behind symptoms. And for whatever reason, that really connected with me. It just seemed like, oh, of course we would do that. Of course we would ask the questions to get down to a deeper level and not just do the same treatment for everybody. Even if they had a similar symptom picture, there would be an underlying mechanism that would be creating that. And so I was in science. I was sort of on track to, go into more of a Western medicine career, and wasn't sure what that would be. So I was doing science for a few years, and then, acupuncture entered these new things like at the perfect time in life. And I had these intuitions, I guess, or this feeling that I just needed to take a leap and try it. And so everybody thought I was a little bit crazy, I think, leaving Alberta, leaving all the things I had known, and moving to Vancouver to go to Chinese medicine school. And, that was 20 years ago. Nobody in my family systems or community really knew a lot about it at all, including me.
Hmm.
But I thought, well, I'm not going to know unless I go try it. And I guess we'll see what happens. Yeah, I'll probably come back. Or that was the speculation, like, oh, you'll be back. And
Yeah,
20 years later, I'm still in BC. And, this really amazing and mysterious sort of mystical path has just continued to unfold.
that's amazing. I love that. And I love how sometimes like the best laid plans or what we think we're going to do just evolves and kind of snowballs into something completely different. And it's amazing when we look retrospectively to how we got to where we are and we're like, wow, like I could not have designed that from the front end, and I love that evolution. So, um traditional Chinese medicine, what well, okay, so I was going to ask you if you ever considered Western medicine, right? So it makes sense that you did, but how did learning more deeply about traditional Chinese medicine, like really getting into it to the point of obviously becoming a doctor, like that's serious studies, how did that further enhance your journey then into more like consciousness? Was that what led you into the more kind of conscious evolution aspect?
Yeah, I would say that, a combination of things. And again, like I didn't really know what I was getting into, and I'd read about Chinese medicine philosophy and acupuncture and those things, and having had acupuncture myself, I had an idea,
Hmm.
and I also had no real idea of how deep I was about to go. Like I
Okay.
was really just scratching the surface. So, admittedly, the first year of Chinese medicine school in Vancouver was really, really difficult because all my teachers were Chinese. They were all born and raised in China and English as a second language. And I felt bad for them. And I don't know if they felt bad for me or not, but they were trying to teach me Chinese medicine in their second language to somebody who had no reference point or foundational understanding for it, because nothing previous to that had really exposed me to that type of thinking. And so I had a hard time understanding them. I didn't get the sort of the accent and the dialect a little bit. And yes, they were speaking English, but sometimes there was some pretty big disconnect in communication. And so I was just doing my best. But I remember sitting there after the first semester, and I was struggling. I was commuting into Vancouver like 3 hours a day, and just that was a culture shock for me as like an Albertan farm kid of like, what is traffic? And
Yes.
suddenly I'm 3 hours a day in a car, and it's like dark and rainy and stressful, and I didn't understand what was happening at school. I was just trying, and I was struggling though. I really was, and I started questioning, did I make the right decision here? And I started really feeling a lot of doubt, a lot of insecurity, and a lot of fear. Like, oh no, I think I've made a mistake. Like, should I be here? And I remember the moments, it was probably late January, early February. And I also later realized the rain that I wasn't used to in the lower mainland was highly affecting me because I had no reference point for that. And that year we set a consecutive rainfall record in Vancouver area. It was like 46 days in a row of rain or something. And we had one sunny Saturday, following that. And I felt incredible. And I was like, oh, I think the rain's been affecting me. I feel amazing today. And I didn't know, but I had
Yeah.
this moment sitting in class, and one of my amazing teachers, she was a barefoot doctor in China previously. And for anybody who hasn't heard that terminology, the legend of barefoot doctors was that they would roam from village to village in poor, sort of rural areas where they didn't have a lot of resource, didn't have a lot of care. And they would travel as Chinese medicine doctors to these villages and provide care and treatment. And they would live
Wow.
with the villagers, they would live with people, they would get fed, they would get looked after, and in exchange, they would do treatment and they would help everybody. And then they would move on. And the legend was that they were barefoot doctors, that they were also very poor and they didn't have shoes. And
Mm.
so this woman, so wise and so deep, and they know things, and that was something that got sparked in me being at school. And I was having this really deep, challenging moment sitting in class taking notes. And I just stopped taking notes, and she was lecturing and sharing, about these philosophies in Chinese medicine. And there must have been this look on my face because I was deeply feeling that fear and questioning, like, am I in the right place here? I feel like I want to quit. And I looked up, and she just happened to catch my eyes, and she stopped lecturing and said, Kevin, are you okay? And it was like this confronting moment. And I think I probably mumbled something like, yeah, I'm good. And then I looked down, and I could really feel that I'm not good, actually. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not understanding things. And it was the ideas, the understanding was hard for me to wrap my head around, but also just the language. And I think the combination of deep, dark, foggy rain that I wasn't used to coming from Alberta, of like bright, sunny skies all winter, cold, but sunny. And I decided to keep going. I thought, well, I'm at least going to finish this first year. And then through that summer, I think, things started softening a little bit. And by the time I got into second year, we started learning a lot more about herbal medicine. And admittedly, also, I didn't really want to learn herbal medicine. I just wanted to learn acupuncture. I was like, that's what I'm here
Oh,
for.
interesting.
Just show me the acupuncture, 3-year program. I don't want to be in school anymore. I just want to like get in the world and do this. And then the longer I was exposed to herbal medicine, the more I realized, it finally cracked through me as well. And by the end of the second year, I loved herbal medicine because I realized the power and the potency of it and the stories and the history of, oh, you could treat anything with herbal medicine. Like, how could I deny those modalities and tools and only do acupuncture? And so it kind of pulled me in, it pulled me in over time. But I did need to persevere and meet those areas of, doubts or fear of my pathway and direction, and just kind of sink into that depth of trust a little bit more. And by third year, I could not get enough of Chinese medicine and treating myself and treating others and learning more of herbal medicine. And so I think it was a lot of reprogramming for me of learning about chi and learning about energy and learning about the organ systems and how our bodies naturally operate, in that reference earlier of the body as a garden, and really teaching us how to live in harmony with the cycles of nature, how to live more closely and in alignment with nature and our natural rhythms in the body. And then we'd get taught that in the wintertime, our energy goes deeper in our bodies too, just like the trees. The roots kind of draw the sap down, and it's repair and rest, and we're meant to do that. And in the springtime, the energy starts coming back up to the surface again and starts coming back to life to meet the sun. And our bodies do that as well. And I started to see and feel that in treating people, that in the wintertime, doing acupuncture and connecting with their energy, I often needed to go deeper before I could really feel
Thing.
that and before they could feel that. But I could usually tell when springtime was coming ahead of even the weather and things like that, because the intelligence of our bodies, when I'm doing acupuncture, I started to feel the energy coming back to the surface, and I'd be like, oh, springtime is coming. In another 2 or 3 weeks, the weather's going to change, but our bodies were already attuning to that. And I've loved that inherent intelligence and that divinity in all of our systems, like far beyond what our minds even understand.
Mhm. That's beautiful. And I agree. With my experience in acupuncture, it just makes me want to dive in and learn more. Um, so I think I could pick your brain forever on concepts of it. But um, okay, with this idea and um, understanding the body like you do, my spirit guides had told me a little while back, probably about a year ago, is they were saying on average that people in our world, we don't see the body as an entity. We see it as a vehicle, right? You just need to put gas in the vehicle and drive the vehicle. Whereas they're like, when we talk about mind, body, spirit wellness, we have the consciousness of the mind, the consciousness of the spirit, and then there's also the consciousness of the body, an
Mhm.
entity like consciousness, right? And so that's why I really like how you're explaining this, because it makes a lot of sense that, just like if the body is a garden, the garden's growing, there's consciousness in that garden, right? There's energy exchange, there's nutrient exchange. So do you think, in your experience, do you think a significant amount of people are starting to awaken to this understanding, or do you think we're still far behind on average if you take the population of humanity?
Mhm. Oh yeah, beautiful. Sometimes I do go back and forth on that a little bit, for different reasons. But what I would say I've experienced, and maybe this is just my experience, so I can't assume it's everybody's, but in my career and, starting school, I've been practicing for over 16 years now, and the level of conversations have changed. And when I started my career, almost everybody, I'd say at least 90% or maybe more of the people I would see, they'd never had acupuncture before. I was often their first time. They'd be coming in and like, hey, have you had treatment before? And they're like, nope. So and so told me I should come see you. And so here I am. And then so I'd often be explaining and talking to people about acupuncture and just kind of guiding and orienting like what it can be like.
Hmm.
And now I would say most people I've seen in the last 5 years, it's the opposite. maybe only 10% of them haven't had acupuncture before. And so this could be a function of my practice over time and, just building a reputation and building a big clinic and clientele and all these different experiences that I've had. But I do find that really fascinating that that's changed a lot. And the awareness of alternative medicine and viewing the body more as a garden, more holistically, that we're not just a machine. And in Chinese medicine in school, like they did teach us that, is like Western medicine's concept is that the body is a machine. And so the machine versus garden analogy, like that really landed with me too. Like we're not just interchangeable parts. And like you said too, we don't just fuel it, drive it. I mean, some people live that way and the results usually show. But if we're nurturing that garden, do we have enough water, sunlight? How's the quality of the soil? Is there enough nutrients in there? Like, what are we growing? What seeds did we plant? And so I think being able to practice for the time that I have and having thousands of really in-depth conversations, the quality of the conversations, and again, this might be a function of my own growth and evolution and awareness and consciousness expanding. So I'm also more available for these conversations. And then I think anything that I've cultivated within me, I get to share that and I get to teach that. And so it seems like, especially the last few years, there's been a greater awakening or quickening where more people are wanting to have this conversation, and I'm also initiating or activating those conversations in people because I'll ask different questions. It's not just, hey, how's your job? What about this? What about that? Tell me your symptoms. It's more, what are the qualities of your relationships in life right now? And how connected do you feel to you? And do you feel like you're in your body more often than you're not in your body? And I have found so many people at times, at least when we begin work, they're not really inhabiting this beautiful, conscious, like physical vessel that we have. And then over time, they do more. And I think those experiences and yeah, just spending thousands and thousands of hours, that has opened things within me as well. And it's helped me, develop my intuition more. It's helped me kind of build on all those foundational pieces, like through the concepts of Chinese medicine, that then, kind of like you're asking earlier, did lead me to look at, oh, here's this book that comes across my path and read like Carlos Castaneda and some of those adventures and learning about shamanism and learning about energy and then finding other books on like pranic healing and Reiki and the list goes on and Christian mystics and legends and like Yogananda and gurus and just steeping in the stories of like, oh, this is helping me remember. I know this terrain from somewhere at some time. Like there's this intelligence that's already in my body. And then it's just like moving those layers, clearing some old programming at times and letting that come alive a little bit more. And then getting to witness miracles in the clinic where one treatment sometimes or a few treatments, somebody comes back and they look like a different person and they talk differently, they move differently, and they have joy. And one of the things we look for in Chinese medicine is the spirit. And you can see it
Yes.
through the eyes. And we call it
Yes.
like the Shen. The Shen is the spirits, and it's housed in the heart in Chinese medicine philosophy, but it comes through the eyes. So sometimes we'd call it like lusterless or lack of spirit is actually a diagnosis in Chinese medicine. And I love some of these concepts because somebody might present okay, but you look in their eyes and it's kind of dull. They don't have the brightness or the spirit. And then over time and treatment and cultivating something different, they come back. And I think some of it is coming back into their bodies and back into the aliveness or the remembering of who they are, or maybe what they're here to do. And then I would see the shift and they'd come in and I was like, oh, the spirit's back. Look at their
Yes.
eyes. Look at that Shen like shining more brightly. And you could just tell. And they'd say, I don't know what's different, but like I feel so different. And inside I would think, the spirit's back. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, totally. And I love that. I love that explanation. I've had that experience too. I had severe liver stagnation last summer, like severe after surgery. And there was a day, several treatments later, where my acupuncturist said exactly that. He looked at me in the eyes. He said, "Your spirit is back." Right. And I was like, I feel it. I feel something. So I just love how such an ancient practice still has so much value. Like it's actually one of the foundations of wellness still, right? And I love that. Like I love the longevity in it. there's so much to be said for longevity.
Hmm.
Um, Now, although I would love to stay on that topic, I do want to carry us forward to how did this all then lead you to start creating these epic events? Like that's a big jump too. So you've got like a
Yeah.
practice and that kind of identity of this is who I am. I'm a Chinese medicine doctor, herbalist, acupuncturist, to then take a leap into these amazing new human events. How did that happen?
Probably through a series of leaps. This is how
Okay.
I view life in some way is we have these opportunities, we maybe get the nudge, there's some guidance that drops through, something opens or shifts, or we get inspired by something or someone. And then if there's something that gets activated or awakened through these experiences, then we get to, face some of these choices as well and decide what we want to do. And I think that's how our destiny is shaped. And even in Chinese medicine, there's this philosophy called nourishing your destiny. And I keep learning more and more of what that is. So in part, I do feel like perhaps these events and where we're at now is part of my destiny. But the steps to nourish one's destiny are going to be very unique and different. And I think a part of that is trusting the omens, trusting the breadcrumbs, trusting the signs, even if you don't know. And I think this is a challenge for us as humans in general, and I'll speak for me here too, that the mind loves to say and do all kinds of things, but the deeper energy underneath is often what can pull us through. Because the mind would maybe have the fear get louder than the action step that's needed to take that next step of, what is my destiny? And as a society, when did we stop talking about destiny? When did we forget that we have dreams and purpose built into our systems? And, I think even to touch on it for part of the undercurrent to the event, I want to help bring like people's spirits back. I want to help nourish
Yeah.
people's destiny. I don't need to know what their destiny is, but I can understand and know and build a vessel of energy, excuse me, and container to be able to set them up for success and them finding that.
Yeah. And that's so needed right now. Like so needed because I find that, like you were saying before, the last 5 years, there has been a change in people's openness to different modalities and, what they're willing to try and all this kind of stuff. So there's this change in consciousness that's have been happening.
Hmm.
And what I find now though is a lot of people are like, okay, I'm open. I'm wanting. How do I do it?
Yeah.
Right. And so I love that idea where you're like, let me help you bring your spirit back into your being. Like, and I think that's great. And I also really like your thought of like, I don't need to know what your destiny is. It doesn't have to be pinpoint specific, but it's about creating this energy, this almost like a toroidal field
Hmm.
to create that whirl within. So um I've heard you talk about the blueprint. Now, I'm curious if this is connected into these events for you or not, because I've had a significant journey of seeing my blueprint in an NDE in 2019. But you talk about the blueprint. Now, if we're going to tangent, that's totally fine. But is this connected into your events, the new human events? Like, where does the blueprint fit into this?
Yeah, great question. And even to just circle back for a moment, I think part of the inspiration was learning that, oh, what if we each have a blueprint? What if our soul has a specific framework of design and everything else, and we could fully step into that or not, or partially? And what does that journey look to fully live and express as a living, breathing human on this planet? And what I started to notice was, shifts and changes in the clinic with people I was working with. But I did have these dreams years and years prior before I ever led any retreats, but it was something that was calling me, and I think it was also the connection to nature that I wanted to have more time with people. And really that's kind of where it began. If I could create a huge shift and change in somebody's body, in their, health and wellness and everything else, or their direction in an hour visit or a couple hour visit, what would happen if we spent like a few hours or like a day or 2 days? And so I started leaning into leading retreats, and my friend Emily and I led a retreat in Banff back in 2019. and it was epic. And I had attended other retreats before, and I could see and feel this like, oh, this is part of what I feel. This is something I know I could do and I could drop in really deeply. And, it took me time to cultivate that. I'd already been in practice for like 10 years. And so that helped. And I found, oh, I get to work in nature where nature is going to do half the work for us anyway. And it's going to take people out of their regular daily life or maybe some of the patterns and things. And it's going to open us up all to something different. So I started leading retreats and like smaller ones, maybe 6 to 8 people, 10, 12, 14, like 18 people. Tofino, I did a few retreats there too.
Oh,
Out
nice.
in like Caslo and the Kootenays here, I led a retreat series called Collective Hearts for 4 years with my friend Courtney. We did 9 of them. And, to date, maybe I've led like 30 retreats or so and sort of that smaller, more intimate. I was in Iceland earlier this year and led a group of amazing humans there. And there's more of that to come. I love those and I'm going to keep doing those. And along the journey, the last few years, I started having these visions of like a 1 day bigger event. And what if we could allow people to have like a relatively small investment of time, energy, finance, but they could they could tiptoe into that slipstream of energy, that they could maybe find something new in themselves, or maybe something would get cracked open even a little bit, and maybe it wouldn't be that scary if it was just like 1 day, like they're
Hmm.
they're not losing out on a whole bunch of other things because I had done 4, 5, 6 day retreats before, and so I wanted to create a bridge and I wanted to do something for the community here locally. And so we did one and it felt good. It went well. And I found these new elements within me opening up because the first one we did was like 100 people and I'd never been in front of that group size before.
Yeah.
But it did crack something open in me as well. And so also to weave in the blueprint, what I was seeing when we got together was it would help amplify all of us and it could help bring that blueprint alive more. And then I started to get excited because the changes I would see, even after 1 day, people would
Hmm.
shift a lot. And
Yeah.
then my heart was like, oh, yeah, like what about doing this more? So I did another one, maybe had, I don't know, 125 people at that one, and more shifts would happen, and people would share the feedback and the things that would happen. But not just related to me, not just related to healing or a shift in their body or their symptoms. They're like, oh, I met somebody or this happened and actually this person and I are now going to travel together or we're going to facilitate a retreat together and oh now this person and I are actually really good friends and so now this has been going on for years. The feedback is still really really beautiful and that's part of the intention is like if we activate our blueprints, if we invoke that medicine in each of us, we're nourishing that destiny together and it amplifies together and we can do that in a really healthy way connected in community. And
Hmm.
that's where I see so much more health and healing because we do need each other. We
Yeah.
need that connection. And I haven't found a replacement yet, and maybe never will, for in person human connection where we can look in each other's eyes, we can feel the spirit, we can see the spirit in one another. And I've thought too, is like we need a soul witness. And, we know through quantum fields and everything else that things, particles, matter under observation changes. And so
Right.
sometimes it's not even words, it's just being seen that we're witnessing each other at a higher frequency. And so it's almost been this organic development of me being excited to see transformation in people where after a weekend sometimes people do say that like that was like 10 years of counseling in a weekend. How did that happen? Like, what did you do? Like, what's going on? And so now, this will be our fourth new human event coming up this October, and there's a theme for all of them. But underneath, it is meant to activate that blueprint. It is meant to activate that greatest capacity of whatever that uniqueness is for somebody. That we
Yeah.
do aim to meet people where they're at, even if they're new on this path or they're seasoned professionals. There's a lot of practitioners, healers, and guides and coaches and things that come to these events. And there's people that sometimes kind of show up by accident or they don't even really know what they're getting into. And things start shifting in that proximity and where we drop in and we have time together.
Hmm. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So, I mean, let's talk about this event, the Interstellar, right?
Hmm.
Interstellar-New Human Event. Tell us all about it. I'm excited about it, but yeah, let's hear all about it.
Oh goodness, I saw a quote, and I've shared this on lots of other podcasts probably, but I saw a quote on the wall of a building in Sedona in 2018 I was there as part of a retreat with my friend Emily again, and receiving and some great men. And it said, "Follow your heart's highest excitement." And that just so deeply landed in me at that time, the things I was feeling and experiencing and going through at that time, and different challenges and difficulties. And it just reminded me, and being able to take that forward and bring that into these events, that's what feels deeply authentic for me. And so this year, and again, we have a theme every year. Last year the event was called New Human Regeneration, and that theme was more about like regenerative relationships and regenerative health. And as humans, we get to continuously regenerate our minds, our hearts, our bodies, and certainly what we feed ourselves energetically and otherwise really contributes to how regenerative we can be. And this year, the theme is interstellar. So it's called the New Human Interstellar. And the definition of interstellar is the space in between stars. And there's something that really got lit up in me about that, of I think we're, cosmic origin species of, various walks of life, various histories, but we're here and we're human. We're on this planet. And so maybe we're all of those things. And so this is designed to build a bridge between heaven and earth, and to really honor the stardust that makes up our cells and things like that. And you can even look at that scientifically. That's true,
Mm.
and also the earth and the minerals and the mud and the dirt and the trees and the water and the forests and the mountains that really inhabit our souls as well, and all the earthly elements that are here. And even in Chinese medicine, the elements, earth, water, fire, metal, wood, like we have these moving through our bodies all the time. So what if we harness that more? And what if we brought that into greater levels of harmony within our systems, where, oh yeah, now we are living the garden inside. And these legends and sort of prophesized times of the return of the Garden of Eden and all of these different esoteric teachings, like what a powerful time right now. I can feel the energy move through my body to come into a space very intentionally to awaken each of us more, awaken and activate and illuminate the spirit within each of us, so that gifting can be shared further, so that there is more love in the space in between. Because the space in between, I've become really curious about the last couple of years, in all ways, not just between stars, but the space in between each of us, the energetics that are there, the data in the morphogenetic fields, and these swirling, fields of, of energy around us all the time. What is that? We talk about auras and everything else, and there's a lot of gifted people that see auras, and they see auras around tree. They can see the energy fields of all living creatures, and the connectedness of the space in between trees and the forest, and that there is an energy moving back and forth. And thinking of the birds all flying, or the geese flying in a V, they're not touching each other, but they're connected through spaces. And
Mhm.
what about the spaces in our bodies and between our cells? And how can we give them more resourcefulness of what they need to allow us to kind of settle into that harmony more? And then I guess the overarching goal too is, let's create a ripple of impact that is so beautiful and positive, that that space of compassion and forgiveness enters the field more, that maybe we tread a little bit more lightly with ourselves and with each other. And then in that witnessing and that softness, there's actually a lot of strength for vulnerability and sharing and change. And then we all get to transform together.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's speaking my language. I love that. That's great. So, you have some amazing speakers uh, at the event. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, I'd love to. And, this has been a dream that I was shown, years ago, that sometimes things drop in when I'm walking in the forest or in meditation, or, dream time at night when I'm sleeping. Then there's all kinds of things happening. And yeah, one of the guests I'm really excited about, he was here last year for the New Human, Dr. Zach Bush, one of my favorite humans. It has been so delightful and powerful to work with him, to have conversations with him, and to see the impact of what happened at the event last year. If anybody is listening to this and you were there, then there was really, really deep connection and experiences that happened that shifted everybody in that room, and continues to. I still get lots of messages from last year about all the shifts and changes that have happened, and that a lot of people are coming back from those experiences, because now they know that we're doing something, that I feel is quite powerful, and so much, this passion, this like pouring into this vessel. And yeah, Zach is such a phenomenal human, not only for his ability to, speak scientifically at the genetic and the cellular level, and, toxins and everything else, but healthy food, healthy soil, but the bigger picture pieces he's very connected into as well. And he just has such a
Mhm.
unique way of delivering that. It's like poetic and beautiful and truthful and honest and raw and real, but also coming from so much love and care for humanity. And
Yeah.
so all of the speakers last year, this year, like one of the prerequisites that I feel is that they're deeply authentically open-hearted and really care, and that's not something that can be faked, and it can
Mhm.
be felt. It's a resonance and it's a frequency. And so one of the other speakers, he's joining us virtually from the UK. Richard Rudd is delivering a virtual transmission, and for anybody that's a fan of the Gene Keys, you'll know Richard, you'll know his gifting and his ability to also deliver really big concepts, but with gentleness and with kindness, but such a depth of clarity. And in his field, I've met him a couple times. I've taken in a lot of Gene Keys transmissions. He's going to be delivering a Gene Keys esque transmission for us specifically. And then he's
Right.
going to lead us through a really powerful, beautiful meditation that kind of wraps all these layers of humanity together. And so I'm just can feel the smile through my whole body as I think about these things. And then we have another amazing soul, Maylan. She is an etheric and intuitive singer. And she's recently actually been working a lot with Dr. Joe Dispenza this year at some of his events as well. And so her and I are going to co-lead some things together. Well, she'll be using her
Nice.
voice and singing. And one of her colleagues, Ali Prevez, he and her are going to do a concert together on Sunday. And that's not really known publicly just yet. So if you're hearing this,
Oh,
that's part
all
of the
right.
experience. But they're going to lead us through like that soulful depth of voice and frequency and sounds, and that's going to be woven through the whole event. And I think music and, frequency and vibration
Mm.
can be so powerfully healing. When I feel like music in general in our lives like can shift a mood immediately, and how
Yeah.
powerful sound and frequency is like that. So that's going to be woven throughout this iteration of what we're doing. And then Stephanie Nosko, really lovely woman, Qigong teacher, really has an adept way of teaching concepts in Chinese medicine, philosophy, and thought. And she's going to be doing a delivery on the five spirits. And then she's going to
Ooh.
be teaching us Qigong in real time, kind of spread throughout the weekend, so we can map our organ systems, move our bodies, integrate. I mentioned it earlier of like get in our bodies even more. And then I'll be on stage throughout the event here and there, delivering what I feel like is going to have some fire, lots of love, but depth, and probably some really raw, beautiful, deep moments. And sometimes we got to get in there a little further to create the change that we know that we're capable of, but all held in this vessel of like care and compassion. And we've been building this event for over a year now, and the energetics that are needed for it too. And so some of the adept, energetic people out there, such as yourself, tend to feel these things and like, oh, there's some energy here. It's not just
Oh, yeah.
a standard, gathering. And certainly we're going to have some fun. We've got a DJ for the final wrap up on Sunday where we're going to dance it out as well. And again, like land things in our bodies over and over again. And we've got a pre-event call that'll be announced pretty soon as well to help everybody prepare properly. And then we've got post-event integration calls going to be booked as well.
Nice.
So yeah, we're creating a real bridge so we can all flow
Mhm.
through that as much as possible, because it does tend to be so life changing just based on the feedback the last few years that we need support afterwards too,
Yeah.
because everybody's different when they enter back into their family systems and work and relationships, and we want to help them do that really well. And how we enter
Yeah.
and exit things, like it really matters. So we're bringing a lot of intention to that too.
That's great. Yeah, that integration is a huge thing. So that's wonderful that you're doing that too. That's huge. That's huge. Well, this has been so great. I really encourage everyone who is listening to check it out. It's the newhumanevents.com, correct?
Yes.
Newhumanevents.com. And there are still some tickets available. And it is happening October 5th weekend.
Yeah,
That's
so we're starting on the Friday, October 3rd,
third.
and
Okay.
going through like starting in the afternoon, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And also thanks to you as well for being so supportive and being a sponsor and vendor at the
Yeah.
event. So people are going to be able to meet you in person there too. And there's going to be, it's like a soul family reunion, soul gathering, that there's such depth of connections that happen. And that's also something that lights me up so much, is just seeing people connect with like-minded souls, and that they all actually support each other and help each other on their journey. And so it may not be from me on the stage delivering some, nugget of wisdom or energetic or activation, and it may be, but it might be the person sitting beside you, or it might be something you talk to outside the big tent we've got rented on the flower farm that we're hosting at. And so I think it's just going to be spectacularly beautiful, both at the venue, but the energy that we're going to be holding.
Yeah, I can feel it. I truly can feel it. And for all of you listening, when we got on this recording here, before we hit record, I could feel into Kevin's energy, and the spirit team working behind you, Kevin, is huge. It is so big, and there's so much purpose behind this event. So I really want to share that too, because I can tell from what I can see and intuit from spirit that this is a huge part of your destiny. It absolutely is, and that's why I'm thrilled to be able to highlight this for you also, and invite so many more people to get in on this energetic signature that you're bringing forward, because I think it's monumental for people. So why not?
Yeah, it's time. What are we waiting for? If not now, when are we taking these steps? So let's nourish our destinies together. I think that'll be fun.
I love that. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. I will have all the links in the description box below for all of you listening and watching. And again, I encourage you guys to check this event out. It's going to be worth it. So thank you again, Kevin. And I will see all of you again next week.
Thank you so much.